A lot of people go through life doing things badly. Racing's important to men who do it well. When you're racing, it's life. Anything that happens before or after, just waiting.
And it's lights out and away we go. It's a great start from Sebastian Vettel. We come up the inside. They run, but the Red Bull Racing man has got through. The champion's done the job. They're all gone. They're all gone. Tander's off. McLaughlin's off. Mick Rule, Richard Petty, and Dale Earnhardt. There's another 7-time champ. Jimmy Johnson wins his 7th NASCAR Sprint Cup championship.
G'day everybody and welcome to round 4 of the AMS Oz round of the Supercars Series Championship held in Symmons Plains. My name's Stairs. It is my great pleasure tonight to be joined in the commentary box by Madbird.
Hey Stairs, pleasure to be here. I haven't done one of these ones with you yet, so it's all very exciting.
Certainly is. And we've got a hell of a race up ahead of us tonight. So far 22 people in the server, but that looks like it may well grow. And there was carnage last week in Melbourne, but it's a much shorter track this time. We've got 56 laps of it, preceded by a 15-minute qualifying session, which the drivers will have 10 laps to set their best time in this very, very short track, so traffic is going to be an issue.
It will. Very short, sub 1 minute, all the lap times currently in practice session bar 1. So small mistake can mean many positions and very possibly being lapped if you have to pit to repair damage. Not something that you would want to be doing if you're up there fighting for the championship.
That's absolutely right. And well, speaking of the championship positions, we're just going to have a quick look at them right now. And currently leading the championship is Baker with 28 points. He hasn't won a race, but he's leading due to his consistency in the first 2 rounds. Following him is Brenton Hobson, Aaron Thomas, and Ethan Greg Galt, all tied on 20 points, followed by Matt Williams on 19 points. Dwayne Davies has 18, Brock Harvey with 17, Lewis Wedding 17, Will Devonish down there in 9th, 15 points, and Voda in 10th with 12 points.
It's a tight top 10. So many positions could change, and of course there's a few positions there that are all tied on points at the moment. So. It'd be interesting to see who gets the upper hand out of those little battles.
Certainly will. Looking at the timing screens at the moment, it is Sanford who is currently at the top. He has set the fastest lap so far of a 50.3, which incidentally is not particularly far off the all-time lap record here, Madbird, of a 50.16. set back in 1980 by Alfredo Costanzo in a Formula 5000 car.
Absolutely. So I could see that lap time falling tonight, to be honest.
Quite possibly.
Because this is practice. They're not going balls to the wall as of yet. So once the red mist descends and they want to hit that front row of the grid, you never know. 2/10 could easily disappear.
Certainly, and we're seeing a few people here. Johnny's gone to 2nd place on a 50.4, and he's been absent for the first half of this practice session, so he's looking pretty strong.
5 laps he's done.
5 laps and straight.
5 laps, and he's managed to get himself into 2nd position in practice so far.
It's not bad. We saw on Sunday. With the Formula 3 race that he was very competitive, and if not for a run-in with Corey Ott, he may well have been looking like he could win that race. But, well, it looks like he's going to be able to put himself in a strong position this time around. Lewis Wedding's just gone 3rd on a 50.5, very close behind. That's the thing about this track, because it is so short, the gaps are very small indeed.
Yeah, it's very hard, as a consequence, it's quite hard to find time. There's most tracks you have, you know, a dozen or more corners, so assuming you improve slightly in each corner, you're looking at a couple of tenths across a lap, but you don't have very much room to improve at all on this track. Once you've sort of wrung the neck of it, you're struggling to get hundreds and thousands.
That's absolutely right. I think we just saw Topher at the hairpin going off, so not ideal for him. He's had a couple of issues, but he looks like he's got it back running again. We'll take this opportunity now to remind you that there is a 10 set tyre limit across all sessions, and there is a chance that people could forget to swap their tyres between the qualifying session and the race, which we've seen hamper a couple of people, including Brenton Hobson in the Super Series in the Porsche. But, so far, Hobson doesn't seem to have made himself available for tonight. As we got Will Devonish just mounting the bank on the inside of the track out of the hairpin there.
And following his misadventure at the hairpin, Topher did spin out going through the first corner and broke his bonnet off. So good thing that the Hobbs team has got more than one bonnet. They can fix that up.
Very good. And I'm sure that they pay their mechanics in steaks very well indeed. Now, Madbird, you happened to race this track on the very first round of the AMS Oz Super Series in the Porsche cars. So you have a little bit of an idea of what is expected in the race tonight.
Oh, very, very slight. Unfortunately, due to time restraints, I've not been able to participate in any further races. But it was a interesting race for the first round. That first couple of corners, I always had a shocking amount of trouble with. You're trying to brake while also going through a little right-hand kink, and also get it all shaped up to be able to go through the left-hand first corner. It's a bit, or second corner, I do apologise. It's easy to get unsettled going through there, and if you're battling with another car, it could spell disaster for one or both of you.
Well, that's very true. And then not far after that, you've got the pit exit, which is a treacherous place for cars to rejoin when the guys on track may be battling for position, trying to get a good exit on the way down to the hairpin, and then they've got to think about cars who are coming out of the pits as well.
Yeah, it comes out onto basically the exit of turn 2, which I'm not sure whose idea that
Devonish,
was.
Sorry, Devonish looks like he's done the same thing again, the exit of the hairpin. There's 2 sets of 11s now out of the hairpin into that bank, and he's retired to the pit lane to have a bit of a think about what he's going to do next. But the top time in practice still belongs to Lee Sanford. Of course, there may be some people on quali runs, we do not know. Jamie Snow's down in 14th, which is a lot lower than he'd like to be, because we've seen that in the Formula 3 and Super Series race from last week that he was battling for victories, and currently quite a long way off the pace.
Indeed, it could be, as you say, could be doing a race sim, getting that consistency down, which when you got this many cars on the grid, there's always going to be a bit of havoc on first lap. So if you're able to evade that, then just being able to punch your card, put in lap times, lap after lap, that are going to be consistent and not too leery, then that could mean that you're going to be at the pointy end of the grid.
That's exactly right. Got just under 7 minutes remaining in this session. And mentioning tyres before, it's, oh dear, JB Snow's into the wall. Yep, he's just completely understeered by the looks of it. It was a very slow speed crash, but nonetheless, he's retired to the pits. So if that was a race sim, he's finished it prematurely, one would imagine. Still got Topher, Baker in the pits. Corey Ott is about half a second off the lead, so we're seeing a lot of pretty quick guys here down in the midfield, so it's looking like a hot pace tonight.
Yes, indeed. It's a lot of laps being punched in. It's kind of intimidating seeing these many cars on the track at once. Johnny there going a little bit deep in the hairpin, which I imagine is going to be something we're going to be saying quite a lot.
Exactly.
As Cranky Cam has also not trouble at the apex, and indeed is staring at a wall of tyres.
Cranky Cam, who has just done his personal best on his previous lap of a...
coming off that high.
Maybe he was still thinking about it. 51.3. And Aussie goes fastest, so Aussie down there in 20th. He's in the Wilson security car. So we're seeing more people. He wasn't in the session until quite recently, so we've got a gradually growing selection of drivers to choose from here.
Indeed. Matt Williams, currently our veteran of the session at 47 laps. Still in 4th position with 50.56. So as Brock Harvey has collided with a tyre wall, is that on the back straight? I think so, and ripped off his rear wing. So not ideal for our host.
That's it. Looks like Corey Ott is on a particularly quick lap at the moment. We're just going to join on his lap to see what he's doing. He's done a fast sector time there. And he's gone off on the penultimate corner there. But he is in 2nd place.
Shot up, so he's pushed Johnny down. And taken
not the penultimate corner. I think he actually got across. Sorry to cut across you there. I think he got across the line to set his lap before he went off the track.
If he didn't and went off the track and still managed 2nd place by a 10th, then he's got quite a bit more pace.
He certainly does, and that would be something that the rest would be particularly afraid of. Down in 22nd place is Voda, who's had some issues in of late, and he's not on track, so he probably ought to get on track quite quickly so he can improve his lap time.
Indeed, crank in a bit of practice. We've still got Lee Sanford in the lead. No one has managed to come close to his 50.3 yet.
Brock Harvey's coming out of the pits now. He's just on an outlap.
David Keane has had a few dramas this session so far. Currently down in 15th place, as he's just being overtaken there by Jamie Snow. I imagine...
Yellow flag down at the hairpin. Sorry to cut across you once more. Brock Harvey has gone and just understeered on those cold tyres on his outlap at the hairpin. Had to reverse it.
Very easy to do. Very, very easy.
Very easy to do. He's only about 3 or 4 tenths down on the lead as well, but down in 9th place, which just goes to show. I mean, we're going to say this a lot tonight because it is just such a ridiculously short track, and a drift there through the turn 6 for Brock Harvey as he starts his flying lap.
Not particularly fast, but quite stylish.
Quite stylish. Get a fair bit of temperature in those rears, wouldn't you say?
Well, not much temperature in the fronts, as he's shooting himself on down towards the hairpin.
Yes.
See if he can improve on that 9th position.
And we wait with bated breath. He's only about 100th of a second behind the car in front of him, which is Brenton Foley. And he's not going to improve on this lap, I don't think, because he's 2.5 tenths down on his PB. So the timing looks like he's losing a tenth or so in that first sector to the leaders. And he's even further back. So he may well not be going for fast laps, and he's certainly not with that exit over the curb. But he, as we say, might be just doing some high fuel runs. Having said that, there is only 2 minutes left in the session. So
it appears that with 2 minutes, sorry to cut across you, it looks like Jamie Snow has finally turned the afterburners on, currently setting a purple lap in the first sector. Only a personal best in the second sector, but might still be enough to net him a very high position in
and indeed, top. He goes top by 200ths of a second, so Jamie Snow pulling it all out when it counts. Well, not exactly when it counts, because he's still got qualifying, but at the end of the session, that was clearly his qualifying practice, and
jumped 10 positions with that.
Yes, but still not the lap record that we all know was set by the Formula 5000 driver, well known.
Mr. Costanza.
Yeah, exactly, Mr. Costanza, Alfredo Costanzo.
Alfredo.
But I don't know.
I love his pasta.
Yes, Alfredo.
Absolutely. So yeah, still 1.5 tenths or thereabouts off the lap record, which Formula 5000 car is quite different to a V8 supercar, wouldn't you say, Stairs?
Yeah, they have very different properties, but nonetheless, they're still lapping in a particularly interestingly close time. So I don't know. It would be nice to see these guys do some sort of novelty race with Formula 5000 versus supercars or something with a multi-class setup. But nonetheless, it's only about a second there between first and 18th there. So
of particular interest would be if they chose during the 2017 Formula 1 season to hold a race at Symmons Plains, a lap would be around 38 seconds. So
there you go.
That would obviously be setting a new lap record for the track, but for whatever reason, the FIA, in their wisdom, did not see fit to include Symmons Plains in their fixture. As David Keane has gone wide on the hairpin again.
Yep.
Not enjoying that corner as we finish off with the practice session.
That's right. Well, they do get 15 minutes to do their 10 laps, so that is plenty of time. You get plenty of time to do 10 laps in that session, but because of the number of people in this server, which thankfully for some of the people at the front of the grid isn't as much as was last week. I think we're approaching 30 at Albert Park in the round 2. Only 22, and I say only with an element of mirth there, because it really is going to be difficult to find clear track to get your laps down, and that we may well see a mixed grid if someone gets balked on their hot lap.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be difficult to, especially on a track this short. It's going to be difficult to find some clear space to set your quali laps on. So it might be a bit of a scramble to get out at the start of the session, and very possibly we'll see some people tripping over each other as they catch up on each other during their quali laps.
That's right. Well, they're just waiting for the light to go green, more or less, for the first for the start of this qualifying session. As you can see, all the cars there just sitting there waiting patiently for this session to begin, and we're going to have
lineup it is.
Indeed.
Oh, who's out first?
We've got the Red Bull car there, and the Wilson Security.
We've got Johnny and Aussie heading down towards the lights. Aussie and the Wilson Security, as you say, being first to the red lights, pulling to a stop. Very observing the rules, Lee. I don't know what the words are.
Very obediently is the word I think you might be looking for. And we got green session there. We'll forgive you that. It is tricky when you're thinking of the information. Oh, what's going on?
Oh, there appears to be a bit of issue.
Oh, we've been dropped out of the server. So
well,
I don't know if that's the server itself going AWOL, or whether it was considering it looks like it's happened to you as well.
Yeah, it has happened to both of us. So it appears to have been an issue on the end of AMS Oz. So
yes,
we wait patiently. For this issue to be fixed. In the meantime, we do have Baggy. What did you make of the practice session?
It was a pretty close practice session overall. We had several people who had to leave and come back and then set best times again. Snow and Wedding, who both set fast times twice at the top. So they both, while it says they have done 34 and 16 laps respectively, they actually did closer to 50 and 30 each. But they would definitely be the ones to look out for in qualifying when it eventually gets underway.
That's right.
It looks like the server may actually be up again.
Yes, we've got a new server that is coming up on our screens for the live timing. And we'll wait to see whether we can join in to, which would be good. It's something that is always good when you're trying to broadcast an event, is being in the server that it's occurring in.
I appear to have joined the server, and I appear to have been kicked directly back to the main menu. So having a few issues here.
So bear with us.
bear with us.
It happens. So they may need to restart it, and gives all the drivers just a chance to cool down from that practice session, have a little bit of a think about how they're going to approach this qualifying.
Indeed, and there is a mandatory pit stop, I believe, during the race. So,
That's right. The
possibly thinking about their strategy somewhat as well.
well, absolutely right, and that may well change on the fly if they don't qualify where they would like to. We've got a new server by the looks of it, maybe.
Yes, we do. Yeah, the reason for the server restart was so because we were at the maximum capacity of the server, so now more people will be able to join the server.
I don't know why they don't leave it at the maximum capacity anyway.
That might have been why there were only 22 people, considering it was such a popular event in the first round. May have been other people wanting to join but unable to. So, my point about there being very little space on the track for qualifying is, if anything, worsened with the possible inclusion of more people to the track who potentially haven't had any practice on it.
Well, that is very true, but having said that, if there was a circuit for that to happen, it would be poignant that it's a circuit that is easy to learn because it only has 7 corners.
Absolutely.
But we are starting to see there are cars about to go on track. We'll bring you vision in a moment, but Brenton Hobson, interestingly enough, is the first man on track, the man who hasn't set a lap in practice, but he does know this track quite well because he won and had a comfortable lead in the second race of the Super Series in round 1 before he went off. So he'll be hoping he doesn't do that again.
Indeed. Possibly he might have been meaning to join, but was unable to due to that server limit we spoke of. Although I doubt it will hamper his performance particularly much as we jitter our way through these people joining and causing the server to lag slightly.
That's right. Well, we're still waiting to get vision back as the server loads for the broadcaster, but we do have live timing. Hobson is just starting his flying lap as we speak. And he's followed on track by Lee Sanford and Johnny.
Yes, indeed. So we wait for our broadcaster to have vision of this, but Hobson is about to come through the hairpin by the looks of it. Quite well. He's made the corner, so that is something we can all rejoice about.
Indeed, and we've got vision back, so we're now looking at Brent Hobson in the Jack Daniels car. He, of course, is the first man to set a lap, so we're not seeing any splits just yet because this is the benchmark, and really, for all intents and purposes, it's his first practice lap as well. But he goes, interestingly enough, to the top of the qualifying session with a 50.6, so that won't be pole, because we know...
4/10 down on the time that Jamie Snow set.
That's right, and Johnny has gone a 10th faster in the first sector than that, but I reckon Brenton Hobson will probably be looking to do a second lap rather on these tyres, and he is up by 1/2 tenth on this particular lap.
Absolutely, that Jack Daniels classic number 7 livery. Certainly,
and Johnny has gone to the top. Sorry to cut across you there, but Hobson is up on his current lap on the time that Johnny set.
He set a slight. He had a slight little wiggle going into that braking zone, going into turn 6, but
oh, and he's lost it in that final sector. So Johnny remains at the top.
Yes. As we've got, we have 22 people now, back to our number that we were previously. So presumably waiting on another couple of people.
That's right. We're going to jump on board with Lee Sanford, who's on a pretty quick lap here. 2 tenths up on pole and 3 tenths up. 3 tenths up on the first sector, and he's up indeed on his personal best. So he set a 50.314. So that's going to be hard to beat because that was.
Sorry, do apologise.
That was faster than what most people said in qualifying.
Brenton Hobson currently 1.5 tenths up on his own personal best time, but caught Voda during the last corner, and that seems to have cost him. Ends up finishing 1/2 tenth behind his personal best as he spins out going through the second corner.
Indeed. Just to highlight once more the closeness as Lee Sanford goes 1/10 and a half up on his second sector there. That the time that Hobbo set on his first lap would have only got him 7th in that practice session, just gone. And Sanford's not up by as much. He's lost a bit in that final sector. He's still improved, but not by the margin that he would have before.
With a 50.3 dead, which I think was actually, I think that's slightly better than the time he set in the previous practice session.
Baker's just gone 4th there on a personal best, 50.7.
As we now have 23 runners in the race. Cranky Cam having now joined.
Yes, Cranky Cam down there in 23rd, obviously hasn't set a lap yet, but he is on track. Lee Sanford's down by nearly a 10th. See if he can somehow improve on this final sector. He may well go top here again, but he doesn't. He's down by 100th of a second, so these are very, very close laps that Sanford is showing. He has the consistency, and we're waiting for people like Jamie Snow, who's still in the pit lane, and Lewis Wedding to show their hand, because they were the only guys who were faster than Lee Sanford in the practice session.
Indeed. I wonder what's have we had any word about when we'll be shifting on to qualifying?
This is qualifying. Oh.
Is it? No, this is
yes,
another
it
practice.
should be qualifying. I thought it was, actually. There's 59 minutes left in the
this is
session.
Another practice session, I believe, because the server has restart.
I wonder if they realise that.
That's a very good question.
And they think this is qualifying.
Perhaps we could get our producer to...
yes, perhaps our man on the ground there can find that out from Brock Harvey, who is the organizer of this event.
They are currently voting to go to the next session.
I see.
Fantastic.
The votes are pouring in now, so we'll be in qualifying very soon.
Very good.
Thank
Well,
you,
that was a bit of a practice for how that qualifying session may go. And the server's just switching over now. So take 2 for qualifying. 15 minutes. We're going to look to, well, I would imagine Brenton Hobson may well be the first man to try and jump into this qualifying session, because he needs all the practice he can get. Only got a handful of laps in. And indeed he is the first man out on track. So, and what's going on here? He's hovering in the paddocks over there by that massive Falcon sign. So, confusion reigns. Viewers, I don't fully understand what I'm looking at, but nonetheless, you can see for yourself.
His wheels appear to be turning. He doesn't seem to be going anywhere, but certainly... Oh, and he's now hovering. He's now in the pit lane.
Oh, he's back in the pit lane.
He is now lining up at the red lights very obediently.
Indeed. Yep.
As I now remember.
That's right. Well, he's obviously has to wait for that light to go green, otherwise his first lap time won't count. But he's had that life-altering psychedelic experience, and now he's going to go out onto the track and try and set a fast lap, which probably also will be a life-altering psychedelic experience. And we're green for qualifying. Madbird, let's get into it.
Let's get into this.
Oh, he's followed by literally everyone else. We've got Matt Williams second on track. This is the chaos we were expecting here in Symmons Plains for this qualifying session. We're gonna just stop down when we get down to the hairpin. We're gonna stop and look at all these cars come through. And you're a racing driver. What you have to do at this point is try and find some space to set yourself a fast lap. How on earth do you do that when you're looking at this?
They're still coming out of the pit stairs, and we've got people on the back straight about to come up to the end of the third sector, or the second sector. So it's going to be hell, is the short word for it. It appears that Jamie Snow and Matt Williams and Brenton Hobson are giving each other very little space on the track, as they're going to be first to start their flying laps. And we have them going through the second corner right now.
Oh, and Brenton Hobson's got a horrendous exit out of the final corner. Out of turn 2 on his flying lap. So this isn't going to be a good lap. And the trouble for that is Matt Williams is right behind him. And this is exactly the problem that we highlighted in practice. Would be the issue is traffic on this circuit, because there's 24 guys now there on circuit, and they've got to find themselves a square inch of space to set a lap time.
They do, and they're currently catching up to Brenton Williams, currently catching up to Nether, going markedly slower.
Well, we just lost you there for a moment there. Yes, going markedly slower.
Going markedly slower, and Matt Williams had incredible pace on the first straight down towards the hairpin, but had nothing to do with it because Brenton Hobson was parked on that hairpin apex right in front of him. So
well, Sanford goes top so far. Hobson's already been dropped down to third place. Brenton Foley goes first on a 50.8. There's a lot more time to be found, so we know from the practice times that they're not getting the times that they would have expected to, because it's just so tight that they can't find any space on track already. Hobson has got 7/10 of the times are just coming in thick and fast. Johnny is currently in pole position. There's been a crash down at the hairpin. I've heard it. I can't see who it was. Looks like they've got going whoever it was, but there's
Brenton Hobson currently with purple first and second sectors, so you would expect him to, although Brenton Foley has just set a purple second sector himself, so you would expect...
Oh, he's missed out by 1/1000th of a second. So he's going to try again because Johnny's still in pole position. He's managed to hang on. Hobson's aborted that lap. They've got to be careful because they only get 10 laps on this circuit, and Hobson's already used up 5 of his because the out lap counts.
Might be better off waiting for a little bit of a lull in the
Corey Ott. Corey Ott's up.
Sorry, do apologise.
Corey Ott's up on his lap. He's got the headlights on and he means business right now. Let's look at his sector time. I'm just trying to find him on the Corey screen. He hasn't set a time yet, so this is his first. He's down by 2/10, however, on the second sector, but he was up marginally on the first sector. He's got the headlights on, and I don't know anyone's going to pay attention to that as he crosses the line in a 50.8, 5/10 of a second off pole position. Will Devonish has just set a personal best, so has... I can't remember, I've already forgotten it. The times are flicking up on the screen so damn quickly.
Brenton Foley goes first by about a 1/10.5. So Johnny has been put down into second place. And we do have Johnny, although on a faster lap, and he takes it back from Brenton Foley. So these are swapping positions like nobody's business, Des.
Johnny looking very good indeed. Topher was the man who crashed at the hairpin before. I've just got word through. So he's having issues with that hairpin, just as we saw him do in the practice session. 200ths from the overall lap record they currently are, so there's still time to be found. The 50.18 that Johnny has set is faster than anything we've seen in practice. That is remarkable. I think we're going to see that lap record tumble today.
Corey up into fourth place with a 50.3, so about 2/10 down on the pole position at the moment. But as we say, all these people out on laps, all doing better or worse than their respective laps beforehand. It's going to be, I've just never Stairs.
No, it's a frantic qualifying session. This really is. Well, let's see. Foley's up by. Let's just stick with Foley for the time being. He's up by a 1/3 of a second, a 10th of a second, I should say. Say that quickly. He's coming into the second sector, and he's up still on his not on his PB by the looks of it. So let's just stick with this and see what he does across the line. If he keeps it clean, he may well jump Johnny. The track grip is improving all the time, and he's lost out in that final sector. He stays second. Will Devonish has just set his personal best down in 7th place.
Brenton Hobson is about 2/10 up on the fastest lap at the moment, so doesn't go first fastest, but he's inching perilously close.
Indeed. So well, let's stick with Hobson because he's already done 7 of his allotted laps in this qualifying session, and yet they're only 5 minutes into it. Just past, or 5.5 minutes. We got someone off at the hairpin there. That's really not something that I think we'll make mention when there isn't someone in that hairpin, Madbird. But Hobson is up, but only by a marginal amount.
Brenton Foley currently in second place. He was 4/10 up on the first place time, but got caught behind Lee Sanford. As a result, doesn't go faster. He caught Lee Sanford at the worst possible time 4/10 upstairs and all gone to pot. So he would have had that lap record smashed if he had managed to pull off that lap.
Hobson has aborted that lap. He was very, very close. He was only a couple of 8 or 9 thousandths of a second. So it's just a swarm of bees that we're looking at now on the timing screen. Just Johnny looks like he's set another purple sector, so he is set to go faster. Lewis Wedding's been a little bit disappointing. He's down there in 5th, and given the pace he showed in practice, everyone's just showing their hands. You can tell there was sand coming out of the boots there in the practice session. They were absolutely not showing their hand until it really mattered, and now is the time when it matters.
Yes, Brendan Foley's aborted that lap. Gonna bide his time for a few minutes and get out there when it's a little bit quieter. Catching Lee Sandford, do apologise.
Lewis Wedding is on a very fast lap. He's 2 tenths up here. This is the man to watch right now. He's finally... I called it. I said he was disappointing. He heard me. He's like, no, Stairs, you're not going to say that about me because I'm about to absolutely smash the lap record. He's up by nearly 4 tenths of a second, and he's just going to come around the final corner. All he's got to do is keep it clean, and he is going to nab pole position. It's a 50.018. He takes 0.17. There's more time in there because he was up by more than that, and Lewis Wedding goes pole for now, but we wait to see just how long that lasts because there's more pace in hand here.
Indeed, 10th and a half up on the lap record. So congratulations, Lewis Wedding, for that overtaking that fantastic record set by Mr. Alfredo Costanza in the Formula 5000s in 1988.
Johnny in his last lap has gone 2 tenths faster than Lewis Wedding did on his pole lap in the final sector. So between them, they've got an incredible lap in them. It's a sub 50, but they haven't all been able to grab those best sectors together.
And Jamie Snow and Matt Williams, usually two up better, down in 8th and 9th position, having finished their 10 laps. They can only go backwards from there as people maybe set faster times. Lewis Wedding sets an even faster
there he is
time,
into the 49s, and Johnny hasn't improved on his lap. He's on his last lap now, and he has to go better. I don't think he's on a fast lap actually. Let's go on board to see whether he's floored it. No, he's in lap counts as well, so he's been shown the checkered flag. So Johnny is not going to get pole position today. His laps are done. Lewis Wedding comes to the fore when it's most required. As we look at
just as you were riding him off, essentially, Stairs. So the opposite
Indeed.
of the commentator's curse.
Yes, well, exactly right. Brenton Foley's not improving. The commentator's blessing. Foley comes into the pit lane, so he's done his 10 laps. That's it for him. Brenton Hobson's got, it says 9 out of 10. I wonder, he's in the pit lane though. He's unfortunately his outlap would count, which actually it's a remarkable performance that he's currently sitting in 4th place, having really no practice at all. The track is quite clear right now, actually, comparatively. I mean, there's about 5 cars on the circuit, but there's still 5 minutes left in the qualifying session, and a lot of the guys out there have already run out of laps.
Yeah, the ones who, does your outlap count as one of your laps?
Yes, it does. In fact, I think your in-lap does too. So one run is 3 laps. So
there's a fair few people out in there that have done 9 laps, but can't set another lap because as soon as they leave the pits, their session done essentially. So the timing board reckons there's only 6 people finished, but in reality the number is probably about half of the field have finished their qualifying.
That's right. We're going to jump on board with Corey Ott now, who is not on a fast lap, but it's faster. There he goes, sliding it through the last sector. I had a chance to catch up with Corey before the race. Asked him what his strategy for this particular race was. Actually, he's found time in that final sector. He's gone 4 thousandths of a second faster than his best, so marginally improves. It doesn't improve his position. He's still sitting there down in 5th, so he's got some racing to do, and his strategy was to send it. If he finds himself in a position where he can overtake, pack post and send it.
Fantastic. We've got Lewis Wedding on a purple sector during the first...
he's showing off now, isn't he?
He is. He's set a time that I would describe as untouchable. He set a purple first sector, a green second sector. We remain to be seen if he betters his time going across the line, and he does. So he just, I don't have words to describe this man.
It's a 49.8.
I hope it doesn't all come to naught when he gets taken out in the hairpin on the first lap.
Let's just put that into some context. By the way, that was his last lap. This is a circuit where most of the gaps between positions are no more than, well, a tenth of a second is a big gap, let's put it this way. There's a lot of gaps that are in the thousandths of a second, that are measured in the thousandths of a second, but the gap between first and second, Lewis Wedding and Johnny, is 3.5 tenths of a second, which on a larger circuit, you know, that gap would be more like 6 or 7 tenths, which, you know, is a big gap, but 3 tenths of a second on this track is huge.
It might as well be the distance between the Earth and the Moon, whereas everyone else is, you know, down the street from each other. For all intents
exactly.
and purposes.
Well, the thing about Lewis Wedding is that he's fast, but he also has the consistency that to back it up. And we saw last week in the Super Series at Monza that when others were losing their heads, Hobson and Snow had incidents, and they were ahead of him at certain stages, and he was behind them, but they came unstuck, they had accidents, and he came through to win both races. So it's looking like he's continuing that rich vein of form today.
Indeed, and he is only 8th on the standings at the moment, but with a time like that and a pole position, you could say it might be a nice day for a Lewis Wedding. Very
good. Topher has improved by 0.5 tenth of a second, but it doesn't do anything to improve his position on the timing screens. As we jump, there's only 2 cars on the circuit right now, and those cars I'm trying to find. No, they've gone back. I think just one. Topher is the only car on the track, and we still have a minute and a half left on the track, on the session, and he's indeed gone back to the
Has anyone
pits.
got any time? Anyone? Brenton Hobson, Corey Ott, Aaron Schultz, David Keane, Dwayne Davies, Aussie Brian Walsh are the only people who could set any more laps. Whether they actually want to or not, it's probably a moot point at this stage because they'd have very little time to get out and get around on their outlap before they set a lap.
Indeed.
So I'm thinking that this is going to be our starting order, Stairs.
I think you're right. Just looking through, Keane would, well, he's got to get out now. In fact, anyone would have to get out now in order to get around. In fact, it's too late. It's probably too late now to get out and go around before the session ends. So none of them really following what would be the accepted wisdom in real-life racing for waiting to the last possible moment to set your best lap. They've all shot their wad prematurely.
Yes, I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, so do I.
So we're going to be starting with Lewis on pole.
Lackluster end to quali, it has to be said.
It is somewhat of a whimper. It's like you've just pulled it out, and she's gone, oh.
Is this ominous for the race, do you think? I mean, I was expecting absolute carnage, but Wedding has such an advantage over his fellow competitors that 1 to 2 is the same gap as 2 to 9. So
I don't want to say that, you know, I expect bad things to happen, but that it's going to be a couple of tenths won't mean much if someone forgets to brake for the hairpin and steams in at 50 kilometers an hour faster than the front runners. So I can't write Lewis off as the winner just yet, and of course there will be strategy. Stairs. So well,
that's right. It is a very long race. 56 minutes. It's going to take some time. Something in the order of 56 laps, I should say. Should take, well, a little bit less than 56 minutes, or depending on how the pit stops play out. Making me wish I'd gone to the toilet before the session had ended, but nonetheless.
Trust me, I'm feeling your pain, Stairs. Maybe we can tag out or something. But
maybe we will. When I say it's time for a commentator pit stop, we'll tag team. But nonetheless. Maybe if the race settles down, good luck. But we're just waiting to grid up now, and that'll give us an opportunity to go through the top 10. They're doing a warm-up lap this time, which they didn't do last week. It was something they debuted in the Formula 3 series on Sunday. broadcast on Nether Realmian's channel on Sunday nights. Commentators Nether and Bagsy, also from Apex Rear Wing. Incidentally, Baker and Nether are only representatives of Apex Rear Wing on the grid tonight.
Indeed, was going to possibly be a couple others attending, but haven't been able to for whatever reason. So Baker and Nether flying the flag for ARW, hopefully get some good results, especially Baker to back up his current lead in the point standings.
Well, I'll just take this opportunity. It's going to be a very short warm-up lap, so we better get through this grid quickly. Lewis Wedding starting his warm-up lap there on the pole position. We saw how dominant he was. Johnny there in second place, followed by Brenton Foley, who came out of nowhere to set some pretty decent laps. Behind him will be Brenton Hobson, who came out of nowhere completely, no practice at all, but he starts fourth on the grid. What were the rest of them doing? Corey Ott in fifth place says he's going to pack post and send it in the race. Behind him, Aaron Thomas of Short Shift Podcast. Lee Sanford, the pace man in the practice session, he'll be wondering what happened down there in 7th. Will Devonish in 8th. Had a horror start last week in the Super Series, but we'll see what happens this week. Jamie Snow in 9th. He's got some work to do. Matt Williams, he and Rambo came to blows last week. He'll be hoping for a cleaner race. Aaron Schultz in 11th. Cranky Cam 12th. Grant English down there in the Brad Jones racing car in 13th. David Keane 14th. Luke is in the pit lane. Doesn't look like he's made it to the track, so that's unfortunate. Topher, he's had issues at the hairpin. Brock Harvey down there in 17th. He will have been hoping for something little bit better. Baker there from Apex Rear Wing. The championship leader currently down there in 18th. Cracker 19th. Dwayne Davies 20th. Glenn Brockhurst in 21st. Nether Realmian in 22nd. Aussie 23rd. Brian Walsh 24th. Voda in 25th as the leaders grid up for the start of this race. Madbird, I'm a little bit out of breath.
I can imagine. Well done. Very well done. Well called to you, Stairs, as we get everybody taking their places here on the grid. Lots of 11s is being done as people suddenly realise, oh shit, I need to stop here, and screech into their brake spots. So Luke, the only one not making it to the track, starting from the pit lane, so he's going to be starting a sector behind, which usually would be a big bad thing, but on this track, probably not that big a deal.
That's right. Someone just not quite lined up properly on the left-hand side of the grid. One of the Holdens about halfway down the grid. Once
Brian Walsh is reversing and back and forth, driving, and perhaps in the right space now. Nope,
someone's disappeared at the back as well. All the tyre temperature that they got on that warm-up lap, and they didn't have a great opportunity to get much tyre temperature during that warm-up lap. It'll all be gone. And we're still waiting for the start. Here we go. 4 lights, 3 lights, or 3 lights, 4 lights. And we're green, and someone hasn't gone. Oh, and there's a crash down there. The guy in second place, the Vortex car's crashed, and there's several cars have just disappeared off the server, and 3 cars, with huge lag spike. But Lewis Wedding has got Johnny right behind him, and oh goodness, the server is really struggling right now, but it looks like Johnny's got by Lewis Wedding at the start of this race. And that will not be ideal. That will not be the start that Wedding was after a tremendous qualifying session. Doesn't look like those cars that disappeared from our screens have actually disappeared from the race, because they're still showing up on the timing screens for now as the gaps go through. Is that someone going slowly? No, well, not sure what's happened there, because Wedding has gone through back into the lead, and Johnny is dropping back.
Indeed, so we have 4 DNFs so far. We have Brock Harvey.
They're cruising around. There's a yellow flag.
And yeah, it's double waved yellow by the looks of it, so the safety car is
safety car's out.
We have, oh my god, it has been carnage. We have Brenton Hobson DNF. We have Brenton Foley DNF, Lee Sanford DNF, Voda, Luke, Brock Harvey, Dwayne Davies, Aaron Schultz and Grant English all DNF. So currently with 16 runners remaining in the race.
I just get word they are restarting the race. They are restarting the race.
Wise decision, very wise decision.
Do we know? We've got our man down on the ground, man. But do we know how? Sorry, Bagsy. Do you know how long before they restart? Is there a chance for a commentator pit stop at it by any chance?
I believe they will have to do another formation lap, so a commentator pit stop should be okay.
Well, indeed. Well, I will. Me and Madbird will leave it in Bagsy's capable hands for the next. minute or so while we take that pit stop.
Absolutely. So Bagsy, take it away. I need to piss.
Oh, okay. Well, while I am taking over, the race will be restarting soon. The participants are voting on it now. As we've already gone through the grid, we won't go through it again. I'll just give you the top 5. Wedding, Johnny, Foley, Hobson, and Ott, who all had stellar qualifying performances, but especially Louis Wedding, who was, suffice to say, the class of the field. Keep an eye out further back down. For 18th is Baker, the current championship leader. Brock Harvey, always fast on his day. Netherrealm, the other ARW driver. And Devonish, who is staying in 8th, but is definitely has the potential to be able to win the race.
And we are back.
We're welcoming back Stairs and soon Madbird. Take it away, Stairs.
Yes, well, the Vortex car, that was the start of all the issues. In second place, just didn't get off the line, and everyone in the back seems to have ploughed into him, and that's caused this horrendous start that's required a red flag and a restart.
And I was watching the rear grid, and all I could see, I was watching the back of Nebberumian's car, and all I could see in front of him was wings and bonnets flying fucking everywhere. So we can.
Sorry,
we
it's
can hope
flying where? Sorry.
Flying absolutely everywhere. So
Indeed.
we can hope for a cleaner start than that on our second attempt.
It was just confirmation. It was Brenton Foley in third place who stalled the car on the grid, which was the cause of all the chaos. And it's chaotic enough as it is, without the cars stopping on the grid, and there's really just no space on this track if something goes wrong.
No, there is.
It looks like Luke has made it to the grid this time, so that's a bit of a boon for him.
Freebie.
Bit of a freebie, indeed.
He only, because of the carnage, he only managed to actually leave the pits pretty much by the time they decided to restart the race. He was sitting there waiting as all these cars.
Well, his reward for that is now he gets to start right in the thick of it, down in 14th of place. So 15th place, I beg your pardon. So well, here we are. We've had 2 takes at qualifying. Here's 2 takes of the race start, and Lewis Wedding will be hoping for something approaching a better start than the first start for him.
Absolutely. We've got Voda about 20 seconds off taking up his position, so going to be a while that the leaders are sitting there on the grid, letting their tyres and brakes cool down, which is probably not what they want, but regardless, here we go again.
Bit of lag at the back, cars disappearing as a result.
Let's hope it's a bit cleaner.
Yes, let's hope. I'm sure. From a commentator's perspective, I hope it's just a little bit easier to call than that first start. But nonetheless, we do want a bit of action. We want to see some fighting going on. So here are the lights to get us away for the start of this race. There is only one today, and someone's already gone across the track way down at the back. It's one of the Red Bulls. And again, Johnny has got a good start, but he isn't able to go through. Hobson's gone off on the first corner. He's going to drop down a few positions, and Johnny's not giving this up. He's going to duck into the slipstream now, but so far it looks like Lewis Wedding is going to retain the lead. Brenton Foley has got away this time, so he is there in third place, and Johnny's had a bit of a look down the inside. The high line there for Lewis Wedding looks like it's worked out, and behind him, Johnny and Foley are side by side, and then there's a little bit of air before the rest of them come through, which is Aaron Thomas, followed by Hobson. He's only lost 1 position out of it. Corey Ott down there in 6th. And I'm out of breath. Madbird, take it over.
Absolutely. So it looks like Brendan Hobson has had a bit of a tardy first lap, although him and Corey Ott currently catching Aaron Thomas a rate of knots. We've got further down in the pack, pretty much parity to the start. We had Brock Harvey and Luke tangling just before the first corner and going through the second corner. So that would have been the car you saw spearing across the track at the beginning. But everyone currently holds position.
Yeah, Glenn Brockhurst has dropped down to last place as a result of that. And Johnny's gone wide at the hairpin, and I think he's collided with the wall. We go back, he's losing positions, he's going to go probably back to last, and unfortunate Aussie male car there has got caught out. There goes Topher. Oh, and there's someone's lost their wing. That's Brock Harvey, and just Brock Harvey cannot get any luck. Now Johnny's down there in 22nd place, which is as good as last. He's the cars behind him are basically out of the race, and Johnny has a lot of damage. That car weaving down the straight. He's going to have to pit. Thankfully it is a long race, so there is a chance he could get a result if he gets back to the pits. Voda's going along the grass. I don't know if that's lag or if he's spinning it out. He's somehow recovered that. But all that means Lewis Wedding now in the lead of this race by oh no, the safety car's out. He would have had a gap, but the safety car is out. So interesting new addition to these races. Don't know just how many green flag laps we're going to get with with a safety car in this series, but nonetheless they're trying it out. Godspeed to them. They might have asked the Apex rear wing guys how that was going to work out, but anyway.
Brock Harvey down in 23rd position appears to be missing his rear wing, so that be able.
Yeah, we saw that happen at the hairpin. He just caught out behind the Johnny pile-up at the hairpin, and someone crashed into his rear, and that removed his rear wing.
Currently got Voda horizontal across the track just before the hairpin.
Yes, he spun under the safety car.
And appears to not be going anywhere, so that car might be damaged beyond.
I'm not hearing an engine. I'm not hearing an engine.
There we go. So currently we have Voda and Topher both DNF'd from the race with damage.
And Johnny, well, I'm not sure if he'll be allowed to pit just yet. It looks like the pit lane is now open. So he will hopefully get an opportunity to come into the pit lane, and there's many others peeling in, including Brock Harvey. There's a wheel! There's a wheel! Someone's managed to crash at the pit entry. It's the monster car, and Brian Walsh has a stop and go penalty. I'm not sure what that's for. That's probably for a position change under the safety car by the looks of it, because you would only get a stop go for that. Drive through is what you get if you beat speed in the pit lane.
Potentially he is currently stationary at the pit entry, so not sure what is going on with Brian Walsh at the moment. We do have Johnny, Brock Harvey and Aussie in the pits currently. Everyone else queuing up.
Well, Brian Walsh has just done a practice start in the pit entry.
Interesting decision. Lewis Walsh leads our field behind the Camaro safety car.
Lewis Wedding, beg your pardon.
Do apologise. I'm getting Walsh confused with many words in my vocabulary at the moment. I do apologise.
All right. Well, we're not aware of this race being time certain, so this 56 laps may well take us some time. So settle in. I'm very glad I had my pee break.
Absolutely. I am glad that my lap is not bursting like a white orange.
Well, they're coming out of the pits. Johnny has had his damage fixed, presumably. They haven't attached the bonnet, but I guess that's not going to be a huge concern of his right now. Given it's a short lap, he may not have a lot of time. Oh, and someone else has retired. Someone has just crashed at the hairpin. Sorry, we've missed the restart. I beg your pardon. It's all sorts of things going on there. Looks like Hobbo under attack there by Aaron Thomas, and Corey has made his way up into third place. He's under attack from Brenton Hobson there. And he's managed to keep on a little bit of a traffic jam at the hairpin, as is expected, but Lewis Wedding has jumped out to 1.5 second lead, and they've only been racing for 2/3 of a lap.
Yes, so just by virtue of the fact of getting a good start behind that safety car, getting out of any squabbles, he and Brenton Foley have got themselves a little bit of space, not too much considering the track is...
Corey Ott and Brenton Hobson have been side by side for the best part of the last sector of that lap. We've got... the drive-through penalty being served there of the monster car, but they're still side by side, and good grief, this battle, Corey Ott is not going to give up this position without one hell of a fight, but Brenton Hobson has made his way up into third place, and that will be not a pretty sight for Corey Ott.
Absolutely not, but God, absolutely not for Corey Ott, but he has got a better exit from the hairpin, so he's got a decent tow on Brenton Hobson down this back straight. Not much you can do with it really into turn 6 and 7. but he can try to set it up for a dive into the next hairpin, onto the lap
on the next lap. We know what you mean there. Devon is just having a little bit of a look on the inside of Aaron Thomas at the hairpin, and just a little love tap, not enough to spin the car around. Just a little love bump to say, hey mate, I'm here. As Lewis Wedding sets the fastest lap.
Side by side, going through the first and second corners, so going to be a bit of a drag race between them on the way down to the hairpin. Lee Sanford almost cuts off Matt Williams' nose.
Yeah, Sanford got the better exit out of turn 3 there, and is he going to send it down the inside? No, he's not. He's too far back at the hairpin to do that, but a bit of overlap there, and Matt Williams has just tagged the rear end of Lee Sanford as we get a race drive-through penalty for Brian Walsh. We're not sure what that is for, but nonetheless we're going to stick with this Matt Williams battle, because it looks like he's going to send it down the inside of turn 6, and he has indeed done that, so he makes up a position up into 7th place as we've got a yellow flag for something, hopefully not another safety car, because we want to see green flag running, as already they're on the 8th lap of this race. That's gone so quickly.
Cranky Cam trying to stick his nose up the inside of Lee Sanford. Lee Sanford's, no you don't mate, and he is back on the back of Matt Williams, heading down towards the hairpins, try to send it down the inside. He has got the inside line, he is braking slightly later, just doesn't have it quite done, so...
there's huge contact there, and that's Lee Sanford around at the hairpin, and there's no space to actually get the thing to turn. He's got to try and wait for a gap. There's one. No, not quite. He's got to just clutch dump it, but he's stuck in the gravel now, so that is just... he's finally got it going, but he's down there in 17th place, so that just shows how quickly in this race you can go from hero to zero, and he looks like he has some damage.
Absolutely.
He has a lot of damage, actually.
He will be diving in to get that repaired, I expect.
Sanford will not be happy. Sanford will not be happy, because that was not his fault. He got a very, very hefty thwack from behind.
Indeed, Cranky Cam Cranky Cam hasn't come out of it particularly smelling of roses himself, but his car is markedly less damaged than Lee Sanford's, although he is dropping positions like crazy down to Lee Sanford, so possibly trying to redress. Meanwhile, out the front, we have Lewis Wedding with a 1.5 second or thereabouts advantage over Brenton Foley. Brendan Foley with a 2.5 second gap back to Brenton Hobson. So the top 3 spreading out as they find their feet in this race, but still setting purple sectors, a lot of them. Yes,
the pace is, they're basically just winding up now, and Lewis Wedding has just set the fastest lap of the race at 50.5, so they're only half a second off their qualifying pace. But Lewis Wedding out there in front with a huge... Sorry, go on.
Got confirmation, sorry, that Lee Sanford and Johnny have both DNF with their damage, so Lee Sanford will be incredibly upset with that with that occurrence, considering he was up there fighting for 7th and 6th position.
Just to go word through, the Cranky Cam has had a horrendous crash and is now out of the race, and Cranky Cam is now part of our crowd.
That is a damn shame. We foresaw that there was going to be some chaos during the race stairs, and
that's right.
It appears to have eventuated.
It does appear to have eventuated. Lewis Wedding, meanwhile, is just serenely out front, 1.5 seconds. Foley, though, on the last lap, 0.2 of a second behind. 0.2 of a second behind. So he's just dropping back ever so slightly. Well, having said that, Wedding's just lost a bit of time through that hairpin.
Indeed. As we've got Cranky Cam plunging into the crowd, going through the last corner, so not ideal as he dives into the pits. Currently not everyone ideal on the lead lap bar Cranky Cam and Brian Walsh, who are a lap and 2 laps down respectively. And we also have, do apologise, we also have Luke in the pits. Not sure if that's a damage or strategy call.
And we're just looking at the battle there for 5th place, Devonish and Williams. These two have been veterans of AMS Oz for some time, and they're very close on track, probably at the moment the closest battle on track.
Yeah, everyone else sort of spread out a little bit. Matt Williams has been, he's not really had he hasn't had an easy race. chasing or being chased by someone for most of the race as far as I've seen. So he's probably having a more entertaining time out there than the guys out the front who are just checking out and punching in hot laps.
Well, that's right, but it's still very, very early days in this race, and a lot can happen in the remaining 34 laps. But the pit strategy will obviously be one factor that decides this race. Got to get into your pit box cleanly. Don't speed, as we get another fastest lap there for Lewis Wedding, so he's done a 50.4. And Foley has not matched that, and Foley just sort of sticking in the 57s at the moment. So again, he's eking out that lead. It's out to 2 seconds at the moment, and the battle between Baker and down here in 12th place, Baker and I think Dwayne Davies it was, a change of position, I believe.
Yeah, and we've got Baker locking up going through the second corner there, so he has got a slow run down this straight towards the hairpin. I don't think Dwayne's going to have much chance to get anything done, and indeed doesn't.
Baker's wide on the exit, so whether that will give an incentive to Dwayne Davies, but he's just too far back actually. He's not made any advantage out of that mistake from Baker.
And we also have confirmation that Netherrealmian and Aussie have both retired as well.
Oh dear. Nether had a particularly decent race in Melbourne. Just through attrition of others, made it through. I think he finished 6th or 7th, so that's unfortunate for him.
That is. Brendan Foley's gone very deep on the hairpin, so that'll lose him a tiny bit of time, but 2 seconds clear of Brendan Hobson, he can afford to make a couple of small mistakes.
Well, that's right. So Corey Ott's falling down.
Yep. Oh, nearly collecting Jamie Snow as he rejoins the track from having gone off at the hairpin, which Jamie Snow's not going to appreciate that very much, because that'll cost him a little bit of time heading down this back straight. But Corey Ott must have just gotten a little bit deep in the hairpin and gotten off into that gravel. And as we've seen, very easy to cause a chain reaction as he slides through the turn 6 there.
The way Corey Ott's driving, it's not going to preserve those tyres. And in a long race like this, you know, in a Formula 3 race like we saw on Sunday night, which is essentially just a glorified sprint. Well, it's not glorified, it's just a sprint. That suits Corey Ott, and even then we saw him coming unstuck at the end of the race. But it just doesn't seem to be suiting him tonight. He is a go for the win no matter what kind of driver, and he won't be happy with 7th place.
What was the phrase he used?
Send it. I embellished it with my pack post and send it. That's a Stairs special. But the big mover, let's have a look. Cracker, 8 positions. He's moved up by just keeping his nose clean. He's up there in 11th place.
Absolutely. So
Corey's not going to make those tyres last. Every time he goes past that pit entry, he'll be like, can I, I'll do your deal. I'll come into you, and you don't lose me any time. But that's not the way pit lanes work.
Oh, the way oh my God, he's barely keeping
destroyed the tyres.
At this stage, he's gonna cruise into that pit lane, and the tyre crew are gonna go, oh, what do we need to do? There are no tyres on this car. Let's just put some new ones on.
We only get 2 seconds. I'd make a suggestion that he may well have some damage, because that car is not handling like a car that only has 16 lap old tyres, because 16 laps is not a lot on this track, and it's not particularly hard on the tyres, so he may have got himself involved in some damage at the start or in the early laps, because we didn't see, he's been up and down the field like a yo-yo, and it looks like
he's currently losing time hand over fist to Jamie Snow, who was about a 1.5 seconds, maybe 2 seconds down on him when he exited his little mistake at the hairpin. So definitely not driving fast or consistently is Corey Ott.
His last lap of 52.1, and that's about 6 or 7 tenths slower than Jamie Snow behind him. Jamie Snow not one to... Well, in fact, he's under pressure himself from the car behind him, David Keane. Aaron Schultz, beg your pardon. So he's actually lost quite a bit of time. He's not really been very strong through the hairpin from what I've observed in the previous 15 or so laps.
And we've got sorry to cut across you. We have Cranky Cam off at the hairpin.
Oh dear.
Down in 18th place, currently only ahead of Brian Walshu, as we know has had 2 separate pit lane penalties. So
somehow he's not a lap down.
somehow they are.
Oh, sorry, he's 2 laps down.
They are both 2 laps down, yeah.
Yep.
So not a good race for either of them at the moment.
Cracker's just set a personal best. And
Fantastic.
moving on.
Glad to hear it, as we've got Aaron Schultz very close behind Jamie Snow heading into the hairpin. Going to have a slightly tighter line coming out of the hairpin and a good tow down the back straight from Jamie Snow.
Indeed.
Although not sure what he can do with it at the end of the...
Yeah, that concertina effect, just stretching out Jamie Snow, seems to have just good enough launch, as long as he keeps it smooth, to stay ahead of Aaron Schultz there. But we're 18 laps into this race now. Goodness gracious, it's going quickly. That just goes to show how fast and how short this racetrack is.
Does. What's that? That's 30... yeah, 38 laps to go. We've got a little while to go. There can definitely more things can happen, but it seems to have stabilised somewhat, Stairs.
Indeed. Well, Will Devonish and Matt Williams are still very, very close on track. Last check, just about half a second between them, so that battle set to rage on for quite a considerable time.
Absolutely.
Oh, we've got a DNF for Dwayne Davies down there in 14th.
Appears we do. So
he's no longer in 14th, and he's in the pit lane. So we didn't see what happened there. So
we've got David. Sorry to cut across you. We've got David Keane catching up on the back of this scramble for 7th place between Corey Ott, Jamie Snow, Aaron Schultz, and David Keane, and Cracker with his fastest lap a couple of laps ago. Although he's just dipped the tyre in the gravel, catching up on the pack as well. So the battle for 7th is shaping up to be a little hot spot on the track.
Corey Ott isn't going to like this comparison. Do you know about Jarno Trulli?
Oh, Jamie Snow has gone up the inside of Corey Ott somewhat. But please do continue with what I believe was going to be a reference to Jarno Trulli. Yes,
well, he was often compared to a locomotive, in that not in terms of the engine itself, but more the carriages trailing it, because there is a bit of a train forming right now behind Corey Ott, and he goes wide onto the grass there. He's kept it in there. We've got a penalty there for Corey Ott. That must be for track cutting. Somehow that counted as a track cut.
That seems incredibly harsh. He had maybe one tyre up on the dirt. Like he wasn't.
That was very harsh.
Certainly wasn't track extending. It wouldn't have improved his lap time. And indeed, we've got Jamie Snow all over the back of him heading into the hairpin. So Corey Ott spitting in his helmet, I'm sure.
I bet.
As we've got Aaron Schultz also tagging onto this. David Keane quite close behind Aaron. Looks like he got a better exit out of the hairpin. Considering his troubled time in the practice sessions, David Keane doing quite well up in 10th.
Indeed. Oh, Jamie Snow. He won't probably know unless... Well, actually, they're in a Discord server together, so he may know that there's a penalty for Corey Ott, but Corey Ott electing to go around again, probably wait until the last possible moment to serve that penalty. But nonetheless, and he's gone off the track, so he's just handed the position. So the cork has been popped out of the bottle, and Jamie Snow is free to chase down the cars in front of him, but it's a 10-second gap. But you can see already that he's stretched out ahead of Aaron Schultz by about 6 or 7 tenths of a second as Schultz goes wide.
I hesitate to bring it up, but Cranky Cam went off at the hairpin again, and when he rejoined, he tagged Will Devonish very slightly, which has cost him quite a bit of time. Matt Williams currently all over the back of
yes, that battle going, and then Schultz he's seen the car come down the inside. It was David Keane had a bit of a look, but in the end it hasn't ended up in a change for position. We just got word through on the Dwayne Davies retirement. Too much curve at turn 2. He lit up the rears and then crashed into the outside wall. So that's what happened to him.
That's not you want. And 18 laps into the race, so we've got a couple of hot
spots. Ott's out. Ott's out of the race. He looked like he went to serve the penalty and has retired from the race. So we don't know whether there was probably, I think he was struggling, I beg your pardon, with damage as well. Figured there was no result to get in the end, so well, we may well get a chance to chat to him and see what happened after the race.
Very possibly on his way to the steward's office right now to have some some colourful language exchange with them, potentially following his penalty. Until then, despite the possible damage to his car, was doing quite well to hold off the fast runners of Jamie Snow, Aaron Thomas, or Aaron Schultz, do apologise. No, yeah, Aaron Schultz behind him. So very unhappy, I imagine Coriel would be at this point in time.
Jamie Snow hasn't cleared off from Schultz Keen, and oh goodness, there's all sorts of crap going on at the hairpin, and the Botlow car's gone up the inside, and I looked away from the screen momentarily, and they were side by side. It looks like it must have been a mistake for Jamie Snow.
Does, and Aaron Schultz currently all over the back of David Keane, going to have the job done going into turn 6 potentially.
He's got the outside line. I don't know if there's more grip on the inside or the outside. I very much doubt that there's a rubbered-in racing line on this circuit. Probably just uniform grip no matter where you are, but nonetheless the racing line is still a thing. But David Keane 9th place there as Jamie Snow locks up, and this train is must be getting to Jamie Snow.
It must, as further ahead in 4th position, we have Matt Williams having taken the position from Will Devonish. So that battle raged for quite a few laps, and it looks like Matt Williams has won out in the end. Have we had anyone come into the pits for strategy reasons yet, Stairs?
I think everyone's just waiting till they've had a crash that's big enough to necessitate a pit for repairs. So, I mean, 26 of 56, we'd have to think that we're getting into that window soon. I mean, I don't expect that we'll be having a 2-stop race, because it seems like they're all still lapping reasonable paces. I mean, the Lewis Wedding is still in the 50s, so given that, extrapolate the maths from there, Lewis Wedding I would expect would go for a one stop, so we may well see him in around about 2 or 3 laps time come into the pits to divide the race exactly in half. But I think it's really, if you're Wedding, do you risk coming in early and getting stuck in traffic? I mean, he's got an 8-9 second advantage over Hobson, so he can do whatever he likes, really, and probably still come out with a sizable lead. Maybe he'll wait till later so he's got fresher tyres at the end of the race.
Yes, so, yeah, incredible lead between 1st and 2nd position. Between the 2 Brentons, it's a little bit smaller, about 2 and a bit, actually, sorry, 3 seconds as they're lapping Luke, by the looks of it. Luke getting out of the way wisely, heading into the hairpin. So, the battle behind them, Matt Williams, Will Devonish and Aaron Thomas has tightened up slightly. Aaron Thomas basically keeping his nose clean, managing to get himself up into 6th position, so good race for him. As we've got, further back in 7th position, we have Aaron Schultz down the inside of Jamie Snow at the hairpin. So he has got the inside line, but he's going to have a much worse...
It's a drag race.
Yep, it is a drag race down to turn 6. Aaron Schultz with the inside, as he nearly tags the back of the car, trying to duck in for that slipstream. Not sure if he's going to get much of it between there and the end of the straight, but... Well,
Jamie Snow's held onto it for now. Has to be said, Jamie Snow had a wheel for a month, so he's up there fighting for race wins. Not today. He's had manners showed to him in some parts of this race pace-wise, but he's holding on to the pressure really reasonably well. We know that it's something that is new to him, so the inexperience, of course, will be a factor. As Lewis Wedding's just a set of 50.6, sorry, that's only 2/10 off his best lap, so he's not struggling on tyres at all.
Absolutely, he's obviously not fighting for position out the front, but still showing that the tyre wear might not be as bad as we expect. Jamie Snow, as you say, with a wheel for only a month, I was certainly not, fighting.
Hobson is in the pit lane.
Hobson is
and
in the pit,
so is Matt Williams and Will Devonish, and Brenton Foley is also in the pit lane, so we're going to watch that. Hobson's away. That seems like a quick stop. I wonder if he's changed all his tyres.
Sorry, it appears that the 2 Brentons had to stack. They shared a pit box by the looks of it, so...
Oh no, and they're coming out in traffic behind this battle with Jamie Snow. And I think Baker was involved in that as well, but he's... Oh, Matt Williams has got a drive-through penalty. That's desperate luck for him. Oh dear. Oh dear. Well, anyway, Aaron Schultz is in 4th place there. And
Foley, the drive-through
oh goodness, they've all... they've all forgotten what button it is in their pit limiter. They're only 29 laps into the race. It wasn't that long ago since they used their pit limiter when they came out of qualifying to turn it off, to get out of the pits to set their qualifying. But nonetheless, everyone has blinked basically. So we're going to see what is Wedding going to do. He's probably seen on his screen there that he now has a 37-second gap over Jamie Snow, who's now in second, having not pitted, and he's coming up to traffic. And if I was him, I'd be ducking right to the right. Yeah, absolutely.
Terrible pitting entry that.
And does he get it stopped? I mean, it's hard to speed in the pit lane because you've got to slow and go around a left-hand corner to actually get into your box. But we'll watch with bated breath this one, because this is the leader and this is the man we care about. Because I have a feeling that that Brenton Hobson didn't change all his tyres, because it looked like a quick stop. Where is Hobson? 22 seconds. Whatever it is, I don't think it's enough, because I think Lewis Wedding's going to come out with an even bigger advantage than he had when he came in. That didn't. How long was that stop? Oh, he's come out right behind a back marker who didn't really see he was there.
Frankie Cam causing more problems, diving out in front by race left. And Lewis, it appears, has come out with about a 10-second advantage over Jamie Snow, currently in second, hasn't pit yet, and 11 seconds over Brenton Hobson. So
Schultz has pit because Jamie Snow is actually got some breathing space now, but not for long, because behind him is famous sim racer and YouTuber Brenton Hobson, and he's got his headlights on because he's hunting down some meat.
Real loser in that first round of pit stops, I think, is Brenton Foley, who was up there fighting with Brenton Hobson for second position. I say fighting, he was 2 seconds off, but from having to double stack behind Brenton Hobson and then getting a drive-through penalty for speeding in pit lane,
someone else in the pits.
He has now dropped back to 11th position. So 30 seconds off the, sorry, 45
Jamie
seconds
Snow's
off
in the pits.
How fantastic.
Jamie Snow's in the pits, so is Brockhurst and Luke. And someone having a bit of an issue there. I didn't see who that was. One of the Red Bull cars, I think, having an issue getting away from their box. That's Aaron Thomas in the SP Tool cars. He's got daylight in front of him, daylight behind him, so we're going to move on to an interesting battle. There's Brenton Hobson. His gap to Lewis Wedding is 10.8 seconds now, so he has closed the gap somewhat. We'll wait till they both set a flying lap. Lewis Wedding is on his first flying lap after his out lap. So just looking at the sector times so far, it looks like Brenton Hobson's marginally quicker on this particular lap.
Down in 8th position we have Cracker in the Hungry Jack's car, followed very, very closely by David Keane and Brenton Foley. As I was saying, Brenton Foley wanting to recover from that horrendous round of pit stops, looking to make these positions as fast as possible so he can shoot off back up the order again. But these cars doing a very good job of stopping him from his forward progress.
Aaron Thomas has been the big winner in the pit cycle. He's up into 3rd place, up 3 spots from where he was before the pit stops shook out. Luke and Brockhurst are in the pits. They were in the pits before. Is that another pit stop? Or are they still there?
Quite a while. The 2 red cars. So not entirely sure what's happening.
All right. Well, we'll just wait for our man on the ground, and we're still looking. Oh, and the Hungry Jack's car is wide at the hairpin, and
Foley spun.
Oh, Foley spun! Foley spun!
That poor man. This race has gone from worse to worse for Brenton Foley.
Indeed. David Keane having a look up the inside of Cracker. And Cracker gives him the room. He's going to go wide off the track there. He's giving him too much room. He's just said, after you, please do. And David Keane said, thank you very much, I will.
Confirmation that Glenn Brockhurst has retired from the race up to 29 lap. Luke, his teammate, is back out on track though, in 15th position out of 16 runners. How far do the points go down in this race?
They go down to 15th place. It's a different point system they get here. 20 points for a win, going down in increments of 3.
Not getting any points, which, considering his luck during the first few laps of the race with his many many penalties. If one more person DNFs, he's in the points, so he'd probably be pretty happy.
That's exactly right. Well, Jamie Snow's down there in 5th place, so he's actually, despite being under an enormous amount of pressure before the pit stops, is in a pretty strong position right now, and he's got a bit of a gap. So all the people that he was battling with getting penalties and just coming unstuck, not quite doing the pits as cleanly as he did, means that he's got a bit of time to breathe.
Indeed, and our RIRW representative Baker up into 7th place after the first round of pit stops, 10 positions up on his starting position, so he'd be happy with that so far, as he's chasing off down Aaron Schultz, and David Keane and Cracker have spread out somewhat behind them.
Wedding and Hobson on the last lap, matching each other 10th for 10th. 50.68 for Wedding, Brenton Hobson's 50.62.
Yeah, Brenton Hobson has caught Grant English by the looks of it on this lap, who is a lap down, so... and
drive through.
With a drive-through penalty, so...
Yep.
Considering some of the stuff I've seen so far, potentially not undeserved.
No, it was perhaps... he's not in the pits, so that would be corner cutting, I'd imagine. And Hobson, we look at the gap as 10.9, just stretching out to 11 before dropping down into 9.3, 8.5. Lewis Wedding. What's going on?
that is in,
it's gone back up. Name. I do beg your pardon. I think my timing screen. It's no. What's going on?
Brenton Hobson has taken the fastest lap of the race thus far with a 50.4 dead, faster than Lewis Wedding with his 50.43. So Brenton Hobson doing all he can to reduce that 11-second deficit to the first position. But you're gonna need more than a couple of tenths to make up that amount of space.
Yes, the transponder issues, I think, just giving me a little bit of a heart attack there for a moment. The gap went from about 12 seconds down to about 5 seconds in 1 second. So I don't know that that's physically possible, but nonetheless, Brenton Hobson with a 50.4 has bettered Wedding's fastest lap. So Brenton Hobson with the fastest lap of the race, he is putting Wedding under pressure, even though he probably won't be able to catch in the remaining laps Lewis Wedding. If he puts him under pressure just by setting marginally faster laps, it forces Wedding to continue to push and increases the chance that he will make a mistake.
Indeed, Lewis Wedding currently carving through the back markers. He's up to the 8th place runner of David Keane. Is probably going to catch him as he sets the fastest lap, not wanting to be outdone by Brenton Hobson, sets the fastest lap of the race with a 50.31, almost a tenth ahead of Brenton Hobson's previous lap. So Lewis Wedding just going, oh yeah, well you can go faster, well I can go faster too, mate, and don't you worry about it. He's overtaking David Keane.
Yes, he did well, Keane, to get out of the way. He was keen not to get a penalty by holding up the leaders. But yes, as you say, anything you can do, I can do better, and including marriage, wedding, terrible. Brenton Hobson there is really just showing how good he is, because although he has done this circuit before in the recent times in the Porsche Super Series, he's had no practice, and here he is swapping fast laps with Lewis Wedding, but in fact on that lap he's lost 0.3 of a second. So that gap sort of hovering there around about 12 seconds. In fact, it's gone out by about half a second on this in the last sort of 10 seconds or 10 seconds or so, as Lewis Wedding goes a bit wide on the hairpin. In fact, I think that might have just been lag, actually.
Indeed. So currently, by the looks of it, closest battle on the track is between David Keane and Cracker. Cracker would be incredibly keen to catch up to David and make this a cracker of a battle.
I think Cracker's just had a moment because he's fallen back a bit. He was closer a moment ago. But, well, let's see. David Keane, he's in the 53s on the last lap, so he may have made a bit of blue, because Cracker's in the 51s. And speaking of blues, he's just made one. And
Cracker has just
Cracker's gone through up into 8th place.
Like
yeah.
So David Keane in the end not providing us the cracker of a battle that I had promised previously. I will be suing him for malpractice.
Yeah, malpractice. Oh, yeah. Not flagrant false advertising?
No. Quiet yourself, as we've got Will Devonish catching up on Brock Harvey down in 12th place. It looks like they're heading down towards the hairpin. Brock Harvey having a bit of an adventurous race. Has been off with damage a couple of times. I believe he lost his rear wing at least once during the race. But Will Devonish starting to hunt him down. It appears that Will Devonish has the advantage of pace, with his last lap being a 58, and Brock Harvey's previous lap being a 51.2. So Devonish catching up on Brock Harvey through these. We've got Brian Walsh heading into the pits again. Presumably being 4 laps down, he thinks, well, it can't get any worse. And Frankie Cam, the only person further behind him, also 4 laps down.
That's right. Well, Baker, our championship leader, is down there in 7th place. So he's up 11 places, as is Cracker from his start. So pretty good, just quietly going about their business, not making mistakes, and they're getting them reward for just staying out of trouble.
Absolutely, it has been a bit of a race of attrition with 9 runners out with DNFs. A couple of hot spots. We've got Topher and Voda both off on this, both DNF'd on the 2nd lap. We have Lee Sanford and Johnny on the 7th lap, and the rest sort of spread out in between, with Glenn Brockos being the most recent, lap 29. So the rest of the runners sticking in there. It's Brock. Sorry, on 12th position, Brock Harvey has had a bit of a moment by the looks of it, coming out of the 2nd corner. Will Devonish, an incredible run on him down towards the hairpin. Brock leaving him no room on the inside, going uber defensive as they both break into the hairpin. Brock has...
undercut. Undercut's on.
Almost swapped it around, but Brock Harvey managing to hold on to the position for now. But Will going to get an incredible run on him down this back straight, heading into turns 6 and 7. So might be able to stick it up the inside and get it before the start-finish straight.
Jamie Snow's just done a personal best lap. Yellow flag somewhere, hopefully not a safety car.
Brenton Foley, not sure where he is exactly.
Well, he's in the crowd.
He is
another one in the crowd, just like Cracky Cam. What's his name? Cranky Cam. And Foley. It's that's an interesting way to get back to the pits. And look at that. This is just becoming a junkyard. There's more cars there in the pit lane than there are out on track. Drive-through penalty as well for Foley. So it's just gone from bad to worse.
I really can't stress how horrible Foley's race has gone since he entered that pit for the first time. He has gone from battling for 2nd position to being in, 13th position with another penalty. So definitely would not be happy with his afternoon out at Symmons Plains.
Brian Walsh, it has to be said, is the only car on track not in the points, in 16th place. And that last pit stop is what put him out of the pits, and well, we may catch up to. He's a lap down on Cranky Cam. Sorry, no, he's 23 seconds down on Cranky Cam. So he may well get back up into that position.
Indeed, and I mean, we still have 12 laps to go. Certainly not out of the question that someone else has a horrible crash and DNF. So Brian Walsh very possibly could be in line for a very bizarre point.
Jamie Snow's been setting personal best after personal best here, so keeping cool.
Sorry, looking at the timing screen, looks like Brenton Foley has spun during between corners 6 and 7. So that poor man. That's all.
Yes, that's right. Lewis Wedding's still pretty comfortable at 13 seconds, so that's just gradually being eked out. That gap. Hobson has pretty comfortable advantage to Aaron Thomas down there in 3rd place. So looks like the positions at the front of the field are stabilising quite significantly.
May I direct you to 10th position, where we have Brock Harvey and Will Devonish continuing their very close battle. Very different lines through the hairpin, but Will Devonish barely barely off of Brock Harvey's bumper currently, heading into turn 6. So I reckon Will Devonish is going to send it up the inside, and he has.
He has.
Will he hold on to it? Is the next question in that sequence of statements I was making.
Indeed, the answer is he has.
Yes.
And, well, Will Devonish on this recovery drive, 10th position, so get a handful of points for that. 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 7 points for that, I think. 6 points, beg your pardon. But ignoring my rudimentary maths, Baker's down there in 12th place, so I don't know whether that's a pit stop or a mistake.
I believe that he pit. I saw him coming out just behind this battle with Will Devonish and Brock Harvey. So
well, he have fresh tyres now, so he'll probably make some positions up now.
He's probably looking at the back of that Brock Harvey car and thinking, well,
giddy up. Exactly right. Well, he wants every point he can get because where he is now, he's not going to hold on to his championship lead because up the top, Lewis Wedding with 20 points for a win and Brent Hobson with 17 points for a second place. They'd be tied on 37 points apiece as it stands.
Sorry to cut across here. Something has happened with Matt Williams, I think. I think he had a bit of a moment in the last couple of corners as he has lost about 5-6 seconds to Jamie Snow down in 5th place. So the pressure may be getting to Matt Williams a little bit. Indeed. As Jamie Snow is just pumping in fast lap after fast lap.
Yes, lost about 4 seconds on that final sector, and that's now put him under significant pressure because well, Snow is just he's doing quite well here. He's piling on the pressure rather than having to endure it, and that's a new position for him, and one that will certainly be welcome in his repertoire of experience that's expanding and expanding every race.
Expanding, as we've got down in 11th place. Looks like Baker has made the position on Brock Harvey, although Brock Harvey not one to give it up. They're side by side heading down towards the hairpin. Baker trying to make the most of these fresh tyres he's got, possibly going to try to swap up the inside at the hairpin. Brock Harvey has...
Oh, he's had a moment, and that's gifted the position to Baker, so he's up into 11th place, which gives him 5 points, and he needs to get up into about 7th place to retain his championship lead as the standings are at the moment, because where he is there in 11th place would mean to get 5 points on top of his 28 is 33, and with the leaders currently on 37 points, he's going to lose that championship position, but he's looking like he's going to be able to challenge for that 10th position from Will Devonish on older tyres pretty soon indeed, or unless he loses out. What's going on here? It's very inside. He's taken the inside curve. He's lost 2 positions in one corner and down to 12th. Oh dear.
Oh dear indeed. Baker getting a little bit eager perhaps as he's setting off about overtaking, as they're taking some liberties with the apex there, the hairpin, it must be said, as he sets off to try to reattempt what he had just completed and overtake Brock Harvey to take the place.
This is Luke. He's getting blue flags. He's currently in last place, so Brian Walsh will be happy that it's not him anymore. He's going to get a solitary point for his 15th place. And well done, he's done his best lap on the previous lap, a 53.1, so he's improving all the time. And moving on, Cranky Cam up there in 14th. Oh, Foley's gone off at the hairpin again. So there must be something wrong with that car. It's not been, after a promising start and a very good qualifying session, it's just fallen apart from there for Brenton Foley, including the stall on the first start, but he was lucky to get away with that. Not a second chance that he's made much is that he's taken much advantage out of.
Yeah, he was looking very promising during his first stint up until the pit stops, but as detailed earlier, has all gone to pot since then. So
that's it.
Would definitely be hoping for better at the next race, but still in the points. So you know, it could be worse. He could be Glenn Brockhurst, Corey Ott, Dwayne Davies, Lee Sanford, Johnny Netherelmian, Aussie, Topher or Voda, and be sitting in the crowd watching this as their cars smoulder behind them.
Jamie Snow, for all his fast laps, has to make way for the leader now. He is currently the last man on the lead lap. And goodness gracious, it's gone by quickly. We already only have 4 laps to go. So Snow, although he wants to catch Matt Williams, has got to let the leader through pretty quick smart. And if I was him, I'd just sort of roll out of the throttle pretty soon, maybe after the next corner, and try and take advantage of when Matt Williams moves over for the leader to see if I can get the position that way.
And he's got the added complication of catching up on Cranky Cam. As I don't want to say a reputation for hitting other cars, but from what I've seen...
There it goes, around the outside! Oh, it looked like he was going to try and let him around the outside. And he's got both positions. Sorry, no he doesn't.
So Jamie Snow has
I'm seeing another car as... I beg your pardon.
Catching up on Jamie Snow. So Jamie Snow hopefully going to leave this until they reach the hairpin to let Lewis Wedding through, because otherwise he's going to lose an immense amount of time stopping somewhere along the
Oh, someone's collided. It's a Red Bull car's collided on the exit of the pit lane, and these guys are side by side now coming out of the pit lane, so thankfully he stayed out of the way. And this is the time, if I'm Jamie Snow, where I'm rolling out of the throttle and just letting the leader go, because this isn't my battle. Try and latch onto him for now and see if Matt Williams can present an opportunity when he lets the leader through.
Absolutely. So lets him go past, and yeah, as you say, latches onto him going through turn 6 and through turn 7. So hopefully going to get a bit of a tow from the benefit of Lewis Wedding, and drag his way up to Matt Williams and make a move on it. But he's going to have to go quickly, because he has only got 3 laps left, including this one, to make the position stick.
2 laps, in fact, because that's the lap down.
Yes.
Baker's made his way up into 10th place, unseen to our cameras at the moment, so he's clawing back. That gives him 6 points, so that means he'll be on 34.
Sorry, it looks like Cracker in 12th position has some damage. He is currently tootling along on the side of the back straight, and is moving quite a bit slower than the cars around him. So potentially had a nasty crash at the hairpin. He, I believe, is the other position that Baker made up in addition with Brock Harvey. So
he's gone
that car
off.
Is definitely not turning.
And into the crowd. Yeah, well, we'll move on.
Many dead spectators. Let's cut away from that.
Indeed. Baker's not going to get any more positions. There's 10-11 seconds up the road to his nearest rival, so he's going to have to settle for that. He's going to lose the championship lead. Championship lead, as it stands, is going to be, I believe, a joint effort between Lewis Wedding and Brenton Hobson. So this championship's staying close. We hope it does so all the way through. But as David Keane goes off... David King goes off the track and lets Grant English through for 7th place. And Jamie Snow's running out of time to get by Matt Williams. He's not stayed with the leader, and he's having to lap cars himself as the leader starts the final lap of the race. In fact, that was the final lap of the race. I beg your pardon, we've missed it. He's so far out ahead that
we didn't wind up for that very much.
We didn't wind up for it very well, but what a win for Lewis Wedding. It was absolutely dominant from start to finish. And he's celebrating exactly, richly deserved, and he's decided to completely destroy those tyres, and who can blame him? Brenton Hobson has finished 2nd place. Aaron Thomas is going to come home in 3rd place. He battled quite hard for that one, as did Matt Williams. We had Will Devonish to contend with early on in the race, but he's going to hang on to 4th after his mistake put him under pressure late in the race.
Absolutely. Jamie Snow missing out on that 4th position from Matt Williams, just didn't have the time to get it done. Comes home in 5th. Aaron Schultz behind him in 6th, and Grant English pretty unsighted during the race, managed to just keep his nose clean, finishing in 7th, and David Keane, for all his up and down form during the practice and qualifying sessions, coming home in 8th.
Yes, Will Devonish already back in the pit lane, ended up recovering to 9th, which was pretty good. Baker was 10th. Brock Harvey had an eventful day, and actually 11th. He probably won't be too displeased with that, given that he's had DNFs in recent weeks, and so he's got some points to throw on the board. Cracker 12th. Brenton Foley there, well, what can we say about his race? He started well, but it all fell apart from there. Cranky Cam, well, yeah, I would be cranky too. Ryan Walsh gets a solitary point there in 15th place, which after the day he's had is probably not bad, honestly. And Luke, the last of our finishes there, down there in 16th place.
Absolutely, and of course, who can forget our also-rans and retirements, Glenn Brockhurst, Corey Ott. Some very good signs from Corey Ott, but unfortunately had a couple of nasty crashes. Dwayne Davies, Lee Sanford, who was battling for a very high position for a while, along with Johnny, both out of the race. Netherelmian didn't really get much chance to show his nous. Aussie, Topher and Boda also out in the opening laps. So a race of attrition it was, Stairs.
That is exactly right. That is what I would use to describe that race. We'll wait and see whether we get any of the drivers in here for a post-race interview. But for now, as we mentioned during the race, that means that if my maths is correct, we've got a tie at the lead of the championship between Brenton Hobson and Lewis Wedding for 37 points, which means that Brenton Hobson's got his work cut out to hang on to this championship. We've actually got Brock Harvey in the garage. Gonna have a bit of a chat to him. Brock Harvey, it was a hell of a start of the race with the safety car and the restart. You crashed out on the first restart, I think, but Phil, you probably didn't qualify as well as you might have liked to. But in the end, you recovered well and picked up some points, which is, given the last few weeks you've had with DNFs, is probably welcome points to put on the board. Oh, we're not hearing Brock Harvey. Some technical...
I am
there we got it.
Brock Harvey. I believe you had him muted. Good host you are, Stairs.
I am. We'll try again. Brock Harvey, thanks for being with us.
Points are always welcome, mate. That's for sure. Especially I got hit and then drove into the stalled car on the first start, and then I was red flagged, so we restarted that. And I think there was a spin between Johnny and somebody on lap 1 or 2 of the second race, and came through the hairpin, and Johnny was just straight across the middle of the road. So I drove straight to the side of him. That blew my front tyre. So I think that brought out the safety car as well. So then... because the pit lane closes, I had to do a whole lap on a blown tyre.
Oh. Not ideal. Madbird knows the pain.
I know that pain very well.
So yeah, then came in for a pit stop. It was a 51-second pit stop with quite a bit of damage to repair, and apart from that, just cruised around a little bit annoyed with myself because I gave up 10th at the end there to Baker.
Well, he was on newer tyres and obviously wanted to keep his championship prospects alive.
And yeah, I think we struggled for pace. Don't qualify badly, I think, is the moral of the story for today.
Indeed, fair enough.
So,
we must say we were surprised to see the safety car come out so early, and we're wondering whether we'd see a lot of this race behind the safety car, given the frenetic nature of the race and the cars spinning out left, right, and centre.
I was praying for another one.
I bet you were.
Just to get me... I didn't drop a lap. That was pretty cool. But I came out just as the safety car came in, so I was 30 seconds down on the back, and yeah, it was just... I think I drove about 27 qualifying laps there to try and get back, and then my tyres were knackered at the end of that stint. So yeah.
Indeed. Well, we saw Jamie Snow under pressure early on the race, and given the reputation you've started to build of getting into the lead and then throwing it away, you didn't do that this time, and you were actually stronger after the pits. It looks like you were chasing down Matt Williams towards the end of that race.
Yeah, so the goal for today was to basically not do what I've done in the last couple of races, which is get out front, push too hard and throw it all away. I decided to start on the hard tyre and just log laps, and wherever I ended up, I was just happy to finish. And the safety car at the start there actually helped me save a little bit of fuel and get a bit further into the stint, so I could pop the soft tyres on for the end there and try and gain some positions.
Well, you were pretty close there to Matt Williams at the end, and I was rooting for you to get that position with him moving over to let Lewis pass, but just didn't eventuate. You ran out of time at the end.
Yeah, I was sort of conflicted because I didn't want to feel like I was holding Lewis up, which, I mean, great race for Lewis, by the way. He drove his his arms off for that one. But yeah, I was definitely keen to catch up to Matt, but yeah, it just wasn't to be tonight.
Indeed. Well, the question that I was about to ask has just completely eluded me, but nonetheless, well done with a good race.
Been a damn good question.
Oh no, that's right. I was going to mention those hard tyres. I know what they're like to drive on, and I don't think they're worth a pinch of salt. So well done for holding on in the first part of that race with those tyres, because now that we know what tyre you're on, that's actually quite an effort.
Yeah, I was actually just wanting to get as many laps out of him as I could, with the plan to, like I said, go out onto the softs and basically just do qualifying laps and try and get some positions. I wasn't sure. I haven't done any real long runs in practice, so I didn't know how long the softs would last. So I just thought, you know what, I'm not going to chance it. I'll go out on the hards, take it easy, and go from there.
Fair enough. Well, that seems like a sensible strategy, and congratulations on a decent result, Jamie Snow.
Can I add to that? The softs actually held up reasonably well first stint, and by the second stint, as the track rubbered up, they fell away pretty quickly. So
yeah. I pitted around lap 30, and I still had plenty of tyres left at the end of the race. So then 26 laps is probably about where they'd start falling off, I assume.
Indeed. Well, we've actually been joined here by our race winner, Lewis Wedding. Lewis, you controlled qualifying, you controlled the race. Looks like you had that one in hand from start to finish.
Can you guys hear me for starters? I haven't been on
We
Discord
sure can.
Yes,
We sure can.
hello, Lewis.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks.
Guys, I think obviously the first few races I've done here, I haven't really prepared all that well. I did a few weeks ago, and did all right there, aside from Evan being a complete alien.
Well, yes.
Did quite a few laps of practice. All my initial running early in the week was just on race fuel. I just tanked the thing and just kept going. And then after reading what Evan said on Facebook the other day, that he ran just pretty much stock set up with 100%, and it actually turned out to be pretty good. And aside from one or two minor changes, it was pretty easy to drive out there.
Yeah, well, it looked like at a certain point of the race, Brenton Hobson was sort of matching you for pace-wise, but you always seemed to have a tenth in hand in terms of the laps that you were setting.
Just after the pit stops, the gap sort of hovered around 12, 13 seconds. But I think with the laps I'd done in practice, I knew I could go faster, but at the same time I was a bit more inconsistent. While in the race, I sort of drove within myself a little bit, and I was, aside from I think the last 5 laps or something like that, I was within like a tenth of my fastest lap.
You were actually in the lead for every single lap of, even after you came out of the pits, you still came out ahead of the second place or any of the runners who hadn't pit. So truly a faultless performance from yourself.
Thanks, and I think that was just the preparation side of it. Obviously, where I've raced before, you've had to really prepare to sort of get results. Well, I think there's obviously, I think one of the guys here, I think they've practiced a lot of qualifying runs, and I'd watch them in practice, and they'd do 15 laps or 10 laps around here, and it just wasn't enough. You needed a complete effort to sort of find out where you are and where you can be. So I think that's sort of helped me tonight.
That's
obviously.
absolutely right. Well, the experience obviously showing through there in that, and of course the result of that means that with your victory, 20 points, if my maths is correct, and you're now jointly leading the championship with Brenton Hobson on 37 points. So that is very promising for the races ahead.
That's pretty handy. I didn't think I'd be that close. Obviously, I missed Adelaide. So it's good to know I'm equal in the championship. I didn't really expect to be here because V8s aren't normally my thing, but Sounds have been quite handy. So
Indeed. Well,
V8s aren't my thing, says the.
well, that's exactly you saw that you had a flawless week last Thursday in the Super Series. So it's a rich vein of form you're in right now, and we wish you all the best in the upcoming rounds, Hidden Valley next week and the next Super Cars, I should say, round in Phillip Island in 2 weeks' time. Thank you to Lewis Wedding, Jamie Snow and Brock Harvey for coming in to speak to us after the race. Thanks very much to Bagsy in the pit lane for providing us with information during the race. And thank you very much to my co-commentator, Madbird.
I love you, mate. It's been interesting doing one live. Not something I'm used to. I apologise. I've been a bit slow at times, but I think we've done pretty well.
Yeah, I think considering the frenetic qualifying session and certainly the early part of that race, it was certainly challenging for us in the box. But we revel in the challenge. My name is Stairs. I've been joined by Madbird. This has been brought to you by Short Shift Podcast and Apex Rear Wing. Thank you very much indeed for watching, and we hope to see you in the future for more races. Bye for now.